Triple H just sanctioned a public execution for SummerSlam. Everybody is looking at this match in Minneapolis and asking how many minutes Nick Aldis can realistically survive against Gunther before medical has to intervene. We're all asking the completely wrong question. The actual nightmare scenario, the one upper management should be terrified of, is what happens to the entire SmackDown roster if the general manager actually wins. Welcome back to WWE Galaxy. I'm Nova. You know the setup by now. The SummerSlam kickoff event at Fanatics Fest. Gunther completely losing his mind and physically assaulting Nick Aldis right in front of Paul Levesque. Triple H snapping and making the match official on the spot. It's wild. It's exactly the kind of chaotic TV we beg for. But I want to talk about the aftermath. Because right now, everyone assumes the career killer is just going to run through Aldis. Gunther ended John Cena and AJ Styles, so of course people think he'll easily destroy a guy who hasn't wrestled a match in 3 years. I'll tell you why they're wrong. Nicholas Harry Aldis didn't just spawn into existence wearing a tailored suit in October 2023. He is a legitimate, dominant former world champion. He was the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion for over 1,000 days. I literally just checked that number to make sure I wasn't crazy. Over 1,000 days as the top guy. So what happens if he walks into US Bank Stadium and actually puts the ring general to sleep? We need to look at the corporate chaos and Aldis victory triggers and why a win for management actually leaves Friday Night SmackDown completely leaderless. You have to look at this from the perspective of TKO and WWE upper management. They brought Aldis in to run SmackDown because they needed a steady hand. They needed an authority figure who commanded immediate respect from a locker room full of alphas. If Nick Aldis strips off the suit, steps into the ring for his WWE in-ring debut at 39 years old, and physically dominates Gunther, he doesn't just win a wrestling match, he accidentally proves that he is still a main event level athlete. If you're Triple H, you watch your general manager beat the most terrifying monster on your roster. You look at the massive crowd reaction in Minneapolis, and you instantly realize that keeping Aldis behind a desk is costing the company millions of dollars in main event matches. An Aldis win creates an immediate resignation crisis. WWE management would sit him down on Monday morning and force an impossible choice. You can be an executive, or you can be a superstar. You can't be both. Gunther, man, if you're listening to this, you might actually be fighting to save this guy's corporate job. Let's play this out. Aldis beats Gunther. He realizes he still has years left in his physical prime. He officially resigns as general manager to join the active roster full-time. What happens to SmackDown at 8 p.m. that following Friday? The brand is completely exposed. Aldis has spent the last couple of years building a highly delicate ecosystem where he keeps factions like the Bloodline in check. The second he vacates that office, Friday nights descend into total anarchy. Who do you even replace him with? Adam Pearce is already drowning on Raw trying to manage his own chaos. A new corporate suit would get destroyed by the SmackDown locker room, and bringing in a retired legend doesn't work because they lack the physical intimidation factor that Aldis carries. The moment Aldis chooses the boots over the clipboard, the show loses its anchor. Look, if you are still watching this, I know you care about the real storylines happening behind the scenes. Hit the like button right now. Subscribe to WWE Galaxy so we can keep talking about the actual logic behind these matches. Alright, let's get back into the fallout. Let's talk about what happens to Nick Aldis, the active wrestler. When you are the general manager, you have executive immunity. Nobody can touch you without facing a massive fine or an immediate suspension. It acts as a shield. The second he steps down to become a full-time competitor, that shield shatters. He's no longer the boss. He is just another guy in the locker room who happens to have a massive target on his back. Think about all the fines he handed out over the last 2 years. Think about all the championship opportunities he denied. Every single superstar who felt slighted by Nick Aldis, the GM, is going to want a piece of Nick Aldis, the wrestler. He would be walking into a bloodbath. Guys like Jacob Fatu wouldn't have to respect him anymore. They could just jump him in the parking lot and it would be considered a regular backstage brawl instead of a corporate assault. By beating Gunther, Aldis inadvertently signs up for the most grueling, hostile run of his entire career.
Gunther's reckoning.
We can't ignore the Gunther side of this equation either. If Gunther loses to Nick Aldis, his entire leverage in WWE vanishes. Kaput. His aura is entirely built on the premise that he is an untouchable wrestling god. He lost the Undisputed Championship, sure, but losing to an executive making his WWE in-ring debut, it would trigger a total psychological collapse. Gunther wouldn't just be angry, he would be humiliated on a global stage. The fallout wouldn't just be Aldis resigning as GM. It would be Gunther having to completely rebuild his identity from scratch, knowing that the wrestling world watched a guy in slacks completely dismantle him at SummerSlam. This match isn't just about revenge for Fanatics Fest. It is literally a battle for the structural foundation of SmackDown. So I want to hear from you. If Nick Aldis actually pulls off the upset at SummerSlam, should he resign as general manager and return to the ring full-time? Or would losing his leadership completely destroy the Friday night roster? Drop your theories in the comments, I'll read every single one. Don't forget to subscribe to WWE Galaxy, and I'll catch you in the next one. Nova out.